Hello and welcome to Philosophy Vibe, the channel where we discuss and debate different philosophical ideas. Today we're going to be looking into an interesting principle around identity and ontology, and that is Leibniz's Law. Great. Now, Leibniz's Law, coined after the works of the philosopher Gottfried Leibniz, is a principle around the indiscernibility of identical properties. In this video, we are going to explain the principle and look at some of the philosophical implications that can arise. Interesting. So, quite simply, the law claims that no two distinct entities can share all the same properties. And so, for any entities that do share all the exact same properties, they would in fact be identical. Note here, identical does not mean similar, it means it has the same identity, so it is one and the same thing. So if X and Y share all the exact same properties, then X and Y would be identical, and so X would equal Y. Essentially, no two distinct entities can therefore share the exact same properties, as they would in fact be the same entity. But if they are distinct entities, then they are not the same. And if they are not the same, they do not share the exact same properties. And so Leibniz's law is known as the identity of indiscernibles. If X and Y are indiscernible, then they are identical. Okay, so can you give me an example to make this clearer? Yes, let's look at Bruce Wayne and Batman. Now, Bruce Wayne essentially has all the same properties as Batman because they are the same person. So they are the same height, they live in the same house, they have the same parents, etc, etc. So Bruce Wayne and Batman are indiscernible, and so they are identical. If Bruce Wayne is X and Batman is Y, then X equals Y. Bruce Wayne is Batman. Right. However, if we take Batman and Peter Parker, now, Peter Parker is a different size, or is wearing different clothes. Basically, he does not share the same properties. We can then agree Peter Parker is not identical to Batman. Yes, I understand. So, no two distinct entities can actually share the same properties. And if entity X is indiscernible with entity Y, they are identical. They are the same entity. And if entity X and entity Y are identical, they share all the exact same properties. And so this is Leibniz's law, the identity of indiscernibility. Okay, so prima facie, this seems pretty straightforward and pretty obvious. Everything shares the exact same properties as itself, so this chair is identical with itself and only itself. This cup shares all the same properties with itself, so everything is identical with itself. Pretty obvious. Exactly. And obviously anything that has different properties to something else cannot be identical, as they do not have the same properties. Again, pretty straightforward. Yes. However, if we investigate this a little, even though it seems pretty obvious, we can start to see some cracks in the law. How so? Okay, in the age of mass production and factory-produced products, I can quite easily think of two separate things that share all the exact same properties. Imagine a factory making a plastic ball. Here we have two balls the factory has just made. They are both the exact same size, they are both the exact same shape, they are both the exact same color, they are both made from the exact same materials and from the exact same machines. These two balls are effectively indiscernible. They have all the same properties. So according to this law, these two balls would be identical. So Leibniz law is telling me that I am looking at one and the same ball, even though I can clearly see they are two balls, two distinct balls with the same properties. This is clearly counterintuitive. Yes, that's a good point. However, this problem arises because you are only considering intrinsic properties. This would not actually be a problem if we take into account extrinsic properties. What's the difference? So intrinsic properties are properties an entity has in itself, something that belongs to the property. So in the case of the balls, the intrinsic properties are the size and the color and the shape, etc, etc. Okay. But extrinsic properties are the properties an entity has in relation to the outside world. So saying the ball is bigger than this tennis ball is an extrinsic property, or saying the ball is 2 meters from the front door is an extrinsic property. It is a property the ball has in relation to the world around it.
Yes, I understand.
Now, in your argument, you said the two separate balls have the same properties, and they do. But they only have the same intrinsic properties. They do not have the same extrinsic properties. They cannot be in the same place at the same time. There will always be a difference in spatial properties. There may even be a difference in the time they were created. So when we take this into account, then no, the two balls are not identical.
Very well. So identity is down to indiscernibility of intrinsic and extrinsic properties. Does this not then make complications for personal identity?
How so?
Are we to say that I am not identical to myself 10 minutes ago, even though I share all the same intrinsic properties? There's a difference in time and space, and so a difference in extrinsic properties. So I am not identical to myself, and I can never be identical to myself, as my extrinsic properties are constantly changing. This problem of identity would also apply to the metaphysical use of possible worlds, as again, there is a difference in extrinsic properties.
I see.
Now, throw into the mix the change in intrinsic properties from a past self. 25 years ago, I was a different size, a different shape, and a different mental state. Was I not me 25 years ago? Am I not identical to myself?
So now we're in the realm of personal identity. However, Leibniz would have a solution to this problem.
What's that?
Here, I would like to raise the idea of a haecceity.
What's a haecceity?
So, a haecceity is like the unique individual property that every entity possesses that makes it what it is. A haecceity gives each entity its specific identity. It goes further than intrinsic and extrinsic properties, but we can refer to it as the property of thisness. What makes this thing this thing? So, we each have a haecceity. You, John, have a John haecceity, a specific property that makes you, you. I, George, have a specific haecceity that makes me, me, a unique property of me-ness that only I possess, and you have a unique property of you-ness that only you possess.
Right.
Building off of the idea of a haecceity, Leibniz believed we each possess and retain our haecceity across our whole lives. So we have this unique property that makes us who we are throughout time and throughout our bodily changes. And Leibniz even went so far as to claim our haecceities retain throughout possible worlds. So even though our intrinsic properties change over time, and even though our extrinsic properties change constantly, and even though the possible worlds may be different, our identities remain because our haecceities remain, allowing us to change yet to remain identical to ourselves.
I think the concept of a haecceity raises even more problems for Leibniz's law.
Really?
Yes, so first, it seems very odd that you would rely on a non-specific, non-tangible, non-describable property to give something or someone its identity. We can't see someone's haecceity, we can't point to it, and we can't explain what it is, yet we are to rest the entirety of someone's identity upon it. I think that is quite a weak stance.
I see.
Furthermore, whilst you may think this escapes the identity problem for people, this hugely complicates the matter for inanimate objects. When exactly does an entity gain or lose its haecceity? Imagine an ice sculpture. It is an entity with a haecceity, and so subject to Leibniz's law. Fine. Now imagine this ice sculpture melts. Does it lose its haecceity at this point, or does it retain it? You mentioned haecceities are supposed to persist throughout time and throughout intrinsic changes, so how does this play out? Is the puddle of water actually the ice sculpture? Is it identical? Does it have the same haecceity, or has it developed a new haecceity? What if I take that puddle and create two new, smaller ice sculptures? Do they still have the haecceity of the original? Do we now have two separate entities that are identical, that are the same same entity? Does this not violate the law? Do you see how many issues arise from this?
Yes, I see.
And I don't want to get into a debate on possible worlds, because we have already done this, but I struggle to see how my haecceity would retain in a possible world where I am completely different. If I was taller or richer or had different parents or lived in a different country, if I had completely different looks or completely different personality, I don't see how this would still be me. I don't see what the haecceity could be for me to still retain my meanness when I'm so different.
Good point. If you enjoyed this video and you want to help support the channel, then please check out the Philosophy Vibe paperback anthology book set available on Amazon. This is a collection of a number of our scripts compiled into 3 volumes: Philosophy of Religion, Metaphysics, and Ethics and Political Philosophy. A great read, a great study guide, and a great intro into philosophy. Also, please check out our merch store on Spring for some great philosophy-themed t-shirts, hoodies, mugs, and more. Links to everything are below in the description, and thank you to everyone who's supported us so far. But that's all the time we have for now. Thank you for watching, we hope you enjoyed the vibe, and what are your thoughts on Leibniz's law? Let us know in the comments below, don't forget to like and share, and for more philosophical debates please subscribe to the channel. Take care, and we look forward to seeing you all soon. Bye bye.